Okay. Wow, that was exciting. Six KGPY 4 IG 5. KGPY 4 IG 5. Okay, I'm going to copy that. IG5. Well, hey, y'all. Welcome to Monks Alive. This is another week that we're going to be looking at a different topic than we did the last couple of weeks. The first week we looked at what was their most bizarre experience that we've had out on the trail. And the winner that week, of course, was Kat, because while she went to Turkey and someone took her chocolate, they left her a watermelon under her backpack as a trade. And then last week, Nicole, she shared that it was her earplugs that she takes on every trip. You know, we asked what was something that you take but you never use, and she takes her earplugs every week, every trail, and then never uses them because, on one hand, she doesn't like the sounds at night, and on the other hand, she wants to hear if a bear is sneaking up on her. There may be another way of doing that, but Kat and Nicole were our winners. This week, the question was, who is someone that have made our adventures a success? And I'll announce the winner on that later. But right now, we're going to be looking at the trails we've walked. And that's going to be the topic. If you looked at the video, the countdown, there was 3 questions there. One of them was, what is your special place for yourself that you go to? The next one was, where do you go just for you? And then finally was, what is a favorite trail that you've walked? I'm an engineer by training, and so if I ask the favorite trail, then my mind goes crazy. It tries to analyze it. It tries to compare and contrast, and it has some kind of criteria that it has to look through. So I don't typically ask what is the anything, but what is a favorite trail that you've walked? Remember that question. We'll come back to it toward the end. Thank you for being here. And just for Max, I did try to send you a reply for your emails. For some reason, it just doesn't go through. I'm going to try that again after the show and hope that we can set something up toward the end of this week that we can visit. So thank you, Max, for sending those emails. Do want to do a quick mail call and shout out, and then I want to introduce you to this week's guest. But for the mail call, and this really isn't a mail call, Jeff down in Osawatomie, he gave me this Flint Hills Trail sticker. And this is from when I thru-hiked the Flint Hills Trail. And thank you, Jeff, for sending this to me. Mile 0 is Osawatomie, and it goes for about, I think right now, 94 miles over to Council Grove. And then from there, it's another section, but it hasn't been finished yet. So when it's finished, I'll have to go back and hike that part of it. And then there's some YouTube channels I just want to give shout outs to, because these are great channels. And so let me just go through. I'm going to do 4 of them this week. I'll do more next week. The first is Devil Dog. Now, Devil Dog is a former Marine. If you military at all, you understand that the Devil Dogs are Marines. And so that's his YouTube channel. That's his, I guess, trail name, if he's got a trail name. Great guy, does a lot of fun, just off the wall videos, and also does super live streams. So go and watch his channel. And then in a similar vein, maybe not as off the hook, but the guy that sort of holds all this bunch together is both Al, who was on the channel with me last week, but then there's Dave Collier Camping. And so Dave Collier, he lives in Virginia. He also does some great cooking and live streams. So go check him out. I'll put their descriptions down in the video. If you saw this week, I did a video on 12 photos in 12 months. It was a challenge that was sent to me by NHT Norway Hiking and Trails. Arnstein is the guy that has NHT Hiking, and he sent me this. So NHT Norway Hikings and Trails, beautiful, beautiful videos that he does there in Norway. And then Jason with all terrain coffee and camping. Jason is just a great guy, great channel. He likes coffee almost as much as I do, I think, or maybe even more. But yep, uh, yep, I see he's on here. So good to have you here, Jason. And there you are. Those are the shout outs that I have for this week. Well, again, we talked about a little bit about our special place. Sometimes, honestly, I get to feeling selfish when I'm out on the trail. It's just part of that experience that I go through. I feel like I need to be at home. I should be at home, and I'm out running around on the trail. Hey, MK, good to see you. But I've found the distinction. There's a difference between being selfish and self-care. So I think our hiking oftentimes becomes self-care, and there's a lot of healing that goes on the trail. You'll hear me say that time and again because that's what's happened with me. A lot of healing has happened. So I was able to hike last year and very blessed to be able to hike 12 different trails and one each month. My third trail of the year was in March. I went to South Carolina and hiked the Foothills Trail. And while I was there, I had put out an invitation for anyone who wanted to join me on one of these trails, just contact me and join me. Well, this guy did. And he actually lives in Connecticut. And he drove down from Connecticut to South Carolina to meet me. And the two of us hiked through the Foothills Trail together. And he's joining me today. His trail name is PTL. His YouTube channel is Be Still on the Trail. Great guy. His name is Ken. And so, Ken, I'm bringing you on here so that you can be here with me. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me, Monk. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, good to have you here. I just want to, one of the things I want to do with my channel is to encourage others both to share where they've been, but also to encourage them to get out. Like you, hiking has been such a good thing for me, but you don't have to hike a long trail. You can just get out in nature and enjoy it a little bit. But you've hiked some long trails. So what was one of those trails that you hiked?
But you know the one that I love, and that's the Appalachian Trail. I did it in
Yes.
2020, year of COVID, so a little different than a normal year. Actually, Monk, if you could have gotten out there in 2020, I think it was the year you would have loved because it wasn't crowded. You mentioned in the Smokies having 70, 80 people in a shelter.
Yeah.
I was in the shelter in the Smokies with maybe 8 people.
That's insane.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
very limited. I had shelters early on. I'd be wet, tired. I just want to get there and have nobody there and spread out. And I
Yep.
had that. But I still had enough interaction with people. There were section hikers, day hikers. So I met a lot of people. But a lot of the thru hikers that year either were on trail and got off and didn't come back, or never got on trail. And so I had delayed my hike by 2 months. When Georgia opened up in May, I decided to give it a try. And so I'm 2 months late starting in Georgia, May 27th. And thankfully I was able to keep going Nobo, got the old body going, and was able to complete my thru hike in 4 months. But it was a special year. It really was. And so
Yeah.
if you bring up
I tell you, May 22nd, that's actually late in the year to get started, isn't it?
Yeah, very late. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people are starting in, some people start early in February, but most people are starting probably late March to early
Yeah.
April.
Yeah. I started in March the 9th. That was when my kickoff was from Amiclola. And the first 8 miles was great. And then after that, it was crowded and it just kept picking up, more and more. Met wonderful people out there. Love the hiking community. I'm not trying to, not, I wouldn't want someone to think, well, he hated being around the people. It was just so many of the people.
Right.
Like you said, you get there at the end of the day, you just want to sort of rest. Well,
Yep.
there was no resting because there would be in that shelter that you had 8 people in, there would be 30 in the shelter, and there would be 40 tents. I remember it was it Icewater? I think it was Icewater Creek Camp Shelter, just past. Um, let's see, you got. I'm trying to remember all these things now. You've got um, oh, what's the place? The Gap, Newfound Gap, and then the next one over past Newfound Gap. Uh, it started raining on me. It was about 39, 38, 39 degrees. It started raining all day long. Uh, and then when I was about maybe a mile from the shelter, the temperature dropped like it can, dropped 10 degrees. So it went from 39 to 29. And the ice turned into hail, or the rain turned into hail. Get into the shelter, and it's 35 people in the shelter. Um, Taking a walk. I am in southeast Kansas, down in Independence is the name of the little town where we live now. We were in North Carolina, and we moved here last year. So, yeah.
I'm hoping to get out there, Dan.
I tell you, there's great trails here too. And in fact, I was just talking with 2 different people. One lives now in Washington State. Her and her husband were professors at K-State. And then there's another group that's called the Friends of the Cherokee Trail. And my goal this year is to hike portions. I can't hike the contiguous old Cherokee Trail, but because it's all broken up now, but I can hike portions of it. And I plan to do that and go through this year of looking at that old trail. Great trails out here.
Well, you actually did the what is it? The Elk River Trail.
Yep. Did the Elk River Trail. That's a challenging little trail.
Yeah, and it's in Kansas. Who would expect all
Yep.
those, the rock formations and the hills and the climbs, and that looked like a
It
good trail. It's not long, but it looked really nice, and I'm hoping
yeah,
to
it's
do it.
it's if you yo-yo it, it's hey John, good to have you here. He says morning all. John is in Australia. And so great guy, another great guy, Noble. I want to claim that we're related. My last name is Nobles with an S, but I'm going to claim that John is my cousin. Anyway, we we did a yo-yo there, and so it was 30 miles total. But it's a rugged trail. It's a rugged trail. In fact, sadly, when I was hiking it, there was a young man that they found his body. He
Ugh.
died on that trail from he just didn't take any water, and that's and he died. So be careful as you're out there. And but yeah, tell us more about the AT.
So I got a late start. I originally planned on 5.5 months. Because of that late start, my determination to do it in a no-bow, I kicked it in gear. I actually early on got shin splints.
Yeah,
Really thought it might keep me from doing that dream of going no-bow. And the trail provides, the Lord provides. I was coming down Hump Mountain. I was in extreme pain. That night I was planning on going in a hostel. I cut my hike down to maybe, I don't know, 10 miles. I was up doing 20s already and cut my time down to 10 that day. But as I'm coming down Hump Mountain, I meet a group of young people, and 2 of them stayed and talked to me a little bit. And I mentioned shin splints, and the young lady says, "Oh, I have chronic shin splints." Shows me her compression sleeve. Next thing she's up there digging around her pack. I go, "What's she doing?" Pulls out a brand new pair of compression socks and gives them to me. Dan, that night my ankle was a balloon. The swelling in my shin went down into my ankle. It was a balloon. Put those socks on. Next day, most of the swelling was gone. Within 2 days, no more swelling, pain gone, and I was cruising again. And so I say Zazu saved my hike.
Yeah, yeah.
It's,
That old saying, "The trail provides," and you're right. It's not the trail, but
yeah,
it does. We get so many things out there when we're not expecting it. Um, Trail angels also
I got to
are
tell you
part of
one
that.
time. I've mentioned
Yeah.
Iceman before. I got to tell you about Iceman. Um, I had contacted some hikers that were going in 2020, and they were starting in February. I had my first grandson coming. One of them was Screwball 2020, and we communicated. He wanted me to start with them, and I said my grandson's coming. I'm going to wait till March. Well, now I got a delay because of COVID. He got off because of COVID for a week or so, and also some health issues. But so he's 2 months ahead of me on the trail. And Iceman supports. Iceman's from Pennsylvania. He supports Screwball. He won't just support you in Pennsylvania. Once he hooks up with you, he'll follow you all the way up to Maine. And Screwball gave him my name. He gave me Iceman's name and tells me, contact Iceman. He'll take care of you. And I'm
Hmm.
thinking, I'm not going to, I don't, at this point, I didn't know what Trail Magic was because 2020, nobody came out.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to bother this guy to take care of me. Well, Iceman contacted me through my channel just before Boiling Springs. He said he wanted to support me on that Saturday, and I got back to him and said my wife's coming down for a week. I'm all set. He didn't take no for an answer. Following my channel, he guessed on Friday I'd be in Boiling Springs. I'm coming over the bridge again. My trail name's PTL for Praise the Lord. Some guy rolls the window down his car as I'm coming over the bridge and yells, "Praise the Lord!" I'm going, who in the world? Who is that? He goes, I'll be right back. He turns around, comes back, pulls over in front of me. I go, who are you? He goes, Iceman. Iceman, how did you find me? Oh, I guess you'd be coming here. So now I'm trying to get in miles to meet my wife the next day, and I'm trying to get rid of him. And he wouldn't take no. He's going, can I slack pack you? I didn't want to slack pack. Can I do this? Can I do that? He finally goes, you got to eat lunch. How about some hot dogs? Yeah, all right. I'll meet you at the next parking lot. So I figured he's going to go buy me a couple hot dogs. I get to the parking lot. There he is set up with the grill going, got hot
Oh
dogs
yeah.
fired up. I had 3 hot dogs, 3 ice cold drinks. He had chips. Then I went away from there with tears in my eyes and my heart just sailing.
Yeah.
And that was my first time. The next day, he came into oh, I forget the town. I'm coming off a Hawk lookout or whatever, and I missed the AT. The Hawk Trail kept going straight. The AT went right, and I missed it. So I
Yeah.
ended up at the bottom, realized I missed, backtracked to get my white blazes in. So I had to backtrack a mile. He was waiting for me in town, missed me. The next day,
Wow.
him and his wife show up. He pulls up in the parking lot. My wife's there to feed me lunch. He pulls
Oh,
in next to her, and he's sitting there staring at her, and she's, a lady by herself in this parking lot in the middle of nowhere. She's getting all nervous, and he's telling her, roll the window down. He rolls it down. He goes, are you PTL's wife? He saw the Connecticut plate. Yeah, I'm like, and so he went and got his wife. They came back. Sue was already feeding me, but they pulled out the lounge chair, so I had a comfortable chair to sit in.
it's
But
yeah.
to make it brief, Iceman then went up to New Hampshire to support Screwball. On the way back, he caught me in New Jersey. I was having a rough morning, turned the phone off airplane mode. There's a note from Iceman. Where are you? So I say, I'm 0.9 such and such a road. He goes, oh, me and Barbara sitting in the parking lot. Got out. They gave me a choice of pizza and hot dogs. I love sauerkraut. Iceman hates sauerkraut. Barb made sure he brought the sauerkraut. She had she had salads, potato salad, coleslaw. They had the hot dogs, cold drinks, fed me. I felt like I was walking out to family when I came into them. So
Yeah.
then up in New Hampshire, he fed Screwball and group up in Maine. On the way home, he guessed I'd be coming across 302. Well, I went across 302, went up Webster Cliffs and camped up on the cliffs about a mile up. There's a stealth site up there. He came into 302 at 6 o'clock that night looking for me. No cell signal, so we couldn't communicate. He he's camped in his car overnight, hiked into the woods to a spot he knew, thinking I might be there. I wasn't there. He drove home to Pennsylvania. later when we communicated, I found out we missed by 2 hours. And I'm going, Lord, why did I miss Iceman by 2 hours? He made all that effort to get me. It doesn't make sense. Well, it made sense later. I get up now in Maine. I'm getting close to Shaw's, and Iceman contacts me, and he goes, Ken, I'd like to support you in the 100-mile wilderness. This time,
Wow.
I'm not trying to get rid of Iceman. Whatever you can do, come on up. So he met me the day before I went in Shaw's. I was actually having sciatic pain that day. He met me just before going into Shaw's. I see a car. I'm crossing a dirt road. There's this car, Pennsylvania license plate, filled with all kinds of gear. I go, that's got to be Iceman's car. I yell, Iceman! Here he comes hiking down the trail. He had a bag of chips for me and a cold drink, a Gatorade. I told him about my sciatic problem. He ended up going up to the next dirt road. He had a hike 0.4 miles up to get to my spot coming across, had another bag of chips and a drink, brought me into Shaw's at the end of the day. I took a zero the next day from my back. He ended up going out and feeding other hikers. The next morning when I got on trail, he brought me back to the trailhead at 6 a.m. And for the next 5 days, that guy treated me like a king. He fed me breakfast, lunch, sometimes dinner, depending on where I ended up. I mean, he gave me barbecued sandwiches. He gave me, again, the hot dogs. He hiked out one spot and met me on trail, carrying in his grill and some other stuff. Was brought in sausages and hot dogs, cooked them on the trail. In the meantime, I didn't know he was hiking in, and I told some young ladies that, oh, there's a trail angel up ahead. Thankfully, he had enough for all three of us. We sat in the woods, and he fed the three of us in the woods.
That's amazing.
One night, I camped in the 100-mile on West Peak one night. So he had fed me earlier. He was going to meet me in the morning on the north side of Whitecap. And I camped on West Peak. So now I'm on a peak and I have cell signal. Well, he told me he was camping up on Whitecap. So we were able to communicate. He's 2 peaks over. Here's this guy, 70 years old. He just wanted to see the stars that night. So he hiked up Whitecap, cold, windy night. It was probably in the 20s, 30s. And he's cowboy camping up there so he could see the stars.
Amazing.
And the next morning on my way down, there's an overlook looking up to Katahdin. Really beautiful view of Katahdin. I check it out. I come back to the trail and I look down and there's PTL in the dirt at 8:15. It's now about 9:30, 9:45. So he's letting me know he was there at 8:15 in the morning. I get down the bottom and again, he feeds me like a king. He's such a special spot in my heart. I met him again this year. He supported a guy trying to break the record on the AT. Sue and I changed our plans at the last minute to go to a spot in New York, Denny Hill Road. We get there at 8 o'clock, set up our stuff. Hikers, we don't figure are going to come in till later because it's about a 9-mile hike to that spot from the last camping area. 9 o'clock, a truck pulls in next to us and beeps the horn. It's Iceman. That's last year. He pulls in, right? Or that was, this last year. He pulls in next to us randomly, and we randomly changed our plans. And there's Iceman. It was confirmation to me to follow his example. And the last 2 years, we've been continuing to go out and feed other hikers.
That's awesome.
What a blessing he was. Oh,
yeah. And to be able to share that, and that's what's special about this community. The hiking community is this not a competition.
Yeah.
And the longer you go at it, the more you realize this is not a competition. This is a community. I heard young folks, and I've got a young man that I'm starting to mentor now that that wants to get out and become a hiker. I don't know what that really is, but he talks about he wants to conquer the trail or conquer the peaks. I said, friend, you are not going to conquer that trail. It's going to still be there when you're done, but you can learn from it.
Learn from it.
She's a wonderful teacher.
Enjoy it.
That was my book of, the School by the Smokies. It was all of these lessons I learned hiking through the Smokies, because even now you talk about a 70-year-old guy. Don't dog out 70-year-olds too quickly. I'm getting close.
I'm getting close too.
I'll be 67 here in just a couple of months. So,
Yep.
man, life is flying by. But still, my goal is I have a 5-year-old grandson, and I really hope that I can hike with him uh, at least once to take him out on a good hike at least once. That's my goal. But if not, I'm enjoying this stuff. Man, this is a good life to get out here, and it's a good community, and that's why, I like what I'm enjoying about this is like with Al, who was with me last week, and talking about Devil Dog and talking about uh, Dave Collier and these guys who are little different genres than what we did, but it's not. It's it's a bigger community. It just makes it even bigger and more fun. So excited about that. Uh,
YouTube and adds a different dimension to hiking, doesn't it, Dan?
yeah. Oh yeah. What it does for me, it makes me look closer at the trail. I love my brother Rick and we hike together, and I love to go hiking with Rick. We just did a trail last week in Texas, um, the Northeast Texas Trail. But we're very different hikers. Rick, you and him would just love each other because you're going. I'm slow, and so I plod along, but I want to see it. And so, like when we went to the Foothills Trail, I wanted to see the waterfalls, and see the rivers, and see the things that are there. Um, so, yeah, that's the blessings that I get from it, and that's the healing that I get from it. So, when I retired from the Army, I said I would never put on a backpack again. That was not going to happen. And then Rick called and started giving me a hard time. He's Marine, I'm Army, so he's talking to me about he's the stronger of the two. He's my big brother. Um, so yeah, he gives me grief, but he can still hike me into the dirt too.
Well, that's good though that you got each other that can go on hikes with. That's great.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun to go with him, and yeah. But Steve, a tramp in the hills, just said he's plods along. But now I've seen Steve. He takes on some places there in the UK. A tramp in the hills. I think I shouted him out last week. I think he he's a great hiker too. So go check him out. It's just a tramp in the hills, and again, that's what this community does. It sort of breaks down walls and barriers. So there's folks in Norway and the UK and Belgium and across and Hicks like me and Connecticut gentlemen like you that can that can
Boy,
be
I
together.
really got you tricked.
Oh me,
So
yeah.
actually, speaking of Belgium, I just got a sticker from Belgium today. So from
Oh, you
Cat.
did from
Yeah,
Cat?
I'll put it on my board eventually, but came in today. So if Kat watches this either now or follows up, I know it's late out there, but if she watched the rerun, she'll know I got hers. Where I was trying to see if she got mine first or I got hers. So mine came in today,
Okay,
and
okay,
that
yeah,
comes for you guys hiking the what was that, Cumberland Island with and Kat came from Belgium to join you guys, and I started
yeah,
following.
yeah. She joined us. She's part of that tramily that we have, and she is planning. I'm trying not to be envious. Um, she's planning to do the Camino de Santiago, but she's planning to leave from her home in Belgium and walk through Belgium, France, and then across the Pyrenees and across Spain to Santiago. Uh, I just want to go from Saint Jean Pierre there in Saint Jean de Port, I guess is there in France, and over the Pyrenees and hike across about 500 miles.
Yeah,
Still planning on that.
I think that's those are hikes. Both my wife and they like history, and both of them would love to go through the towns where there's a lot of history. The only thing is, you'll never get them back on going out of town because they like to look at everything.
But then there's the next town.
Yeah.
There's the next town, and yeah, it's just amazing. Um, so yes, like Steve said, we're all walkers, and we all enjoy the outdoors. So it's great stuff.
Dan, could I?
Well, what? Go ahead.
I was going to ask if I could tell another story from the AT.
Absolutely.
Um, I was in a shelter down in North Carolina, Hogback Ridge, maybe.
Mm.
But so I'm in the shelter. There's two dads there with their boys, and they're staying in a tent out behind the shelter. But so they were using the table in front, and we talked. And in the morning, as you know, I would share a scripture every morning. And so I would
Uh-huh.
film it, and I asked them if I minded if I did it before I started out, and they were fine with it. They turned out to be Christians. And so I filmed the devotional. They thanked me. They started following me on YouTube. And I get a note one day with a link from one of the fathers. It was Charlie and Todd. Charlie sends me a link, and his younger son had been watching. And I wore a red shirt for the whole time, a long sleeve red shirt. I had this hat on. And, by that time I had a goatee.
Yeah. Yeah.
His son made a Lego figure of PTL, red top, the hat. He drew in a goatee, and he made a little video walking around the yard. And I would, the reason my trail name is PTL is when I'm filming, I often say praise the Lord. Well, I didn't realize at the time, not only did I say that, I would often say heading north. And so I'm watching this video this little boy made, and he's at the end of every little clip, he's going, head north, praise the Lord. And then it just broke my heart. And from that point on, the rest of my hike, I overemphasized heading north, praise the Lord, because of his little video clip.
Yeah.
Few nights later, I'm lying in some peak in the middle of nowhere, and I get a note from the other dad, from Todd.
Yeah.
And he tells me his son is running around. He said they are so encouraged by my post. His son is running around the house saying, I'm hiking the Appalachian Trail. Praise the Lord. And they were so encouraged by it. And it brought tears to my eyes, hearing that they were encouraged that their boys running around doing that. That
Yeah.
was
It's amazing. Similar to that, I was leaving the Smokies, and there was a friend of mine who lives in Asheville, North Carolina, and Pat had been watching me because I carried my little InReach Mini, and there's a website that folks could go on, and they could sort of every 30 minutes it would ping where my location, and so Pat was watching me and tracking me on the computer, and as I'm coming out of the Smokies and heading towards Standing Bear Farm, um, I hear voices, and I'm thinking, I'm going crazy because I heard voices, and I hear kids, and I hear a couple of dogs, and I look, and here's Pat with his two children and their dogs, and he's coming to meet me down the trail, and he had some chicken sandwiches and a couple of big oversized, Cokes, and oh man, it was
nice.
wonderful. But that's sort of the way uh, that's sort of the way that trail works. It's just amazing who you find and who watches and who comes to help. And you know, I've got a guy that I really appreciate his channel too, Hike Camp Max, and he's sending us notes here. Uh, he lives in Wyoming. My favorite trail of all trails is the Wind River Range. I love it. I love it. And so I want to go out and hike with him. And he said nothing over 10 miles. Well, Ken, 10 miles is that's my sweet spot.
Yeah.
I don't like to go over 10 miles, especially at 10 miles in a day. Uh, Now on the Northeast Texas Trail, our first day out, Rick and I did 20 miles.
Ooh.
And then we did two let's see, we did a 20 mile, we did 3 14s, I guess, after that. But that first day out, and man,
Is is it flat?
it's a rail trail, so
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a 3% grade, but those grades, when you've got a 3% up, that up may last for 6 miles.
No Heartbreak Ridge.
Yeah, well, not as bad as Heartbreak. Oh man, that was or yeah, it's Heartbreak Ridge. That on the Foothills Trail. Yeah, that thing was straight up,
Straight up.
and you
And
get to the top.
every time you go around the bend, you think you're done, and there's another set of stairs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's what you get to the top, and it's not the top. You got to go again. And then I got to that bench, thought we were there, and then looked around the corner, and it's more stairs. That was brutal. Let's see. What does Jason say here? Have you ever had that moment of after trail magic where you thought, "Why did I eat that much? How am I going to get back into the rhythm?" Oh yeah, I just wanted to have a siesta after eating. Uh, Another trail angel that's out there is Fresh Grounds. Are you familiar with Fresh Grounds?
I am. I didn't meet him. I've seen him in many videos.
Yeah, yeah. He he was just great, great out there.
So you met him? Did you meet him on the trail, Dan?
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
And it just so happened again, the trail provides kind of thing. My batteries were running low. Well, he's set his van up to where all on the outside there's charging ports. So everybody's hanging around the backside of his van, plugged into his van, charging their devices and,
Yeah.
and eating. So
That was one of my biggest concerns in the 100-mile wilderness is how am I going to charge my battery bank? Probably went through in about 6 days, and my
yeah,
battery's
yeah.
only going to get me 4 or 5. What am I going to do? And Iceman was in there, and he gave me one of his, took mine while he was driving around. He charged it up, and that took care of that.
Jason, he's asking if Fresh Grounds brewed coffee. Oh yes, that was his mainstay, but he did so much more than that. Sort of like Iceman, so much more than that.
Oh,
He
my.
just cooked these gourmet, well, they're not good eating meals that were just amazing.
Actually,
Amazing.
Iceman, before he met me, I don't think he had done coffee because I like coffee. He went out and got the coffee pot and made some good coffee for me.
Well, that's good,
Yeah.
especially if you can make good coffee. You make good coffee. That's great. Oh my. So what's next? What are you doing this year?
My original plans were in the spring. Last year, I did a small trail called the Mattabesset Trail. It's part of the New England Trail. So I just did that. The New England Trail goes from the coast in Connecticut all the way up to the New Hampshire line, over 200 miles. And that's my goal, is to do the New England Trail. But I did a little section of it. It's made up of, I think, 4 trails. So I did one of them, which was about 60 miles. But that's what I'm maybe in the spring do that. I just noticed uh, rerun on your screen. I'm not following the screen too much. Rerun
Okay,
asked,
yeah, I'm not either as
yeah,
much. I wish I could.
but
It's
Rerun had asked would I do anything different on my if I did the trail again, the Appalachian Trail again, and not a lot different. My year was special, and I couldn't trade that for anything.
yeah.
I maybe a little more people to hike with. I did hike with some section hikers, day hikers a little bit, but would have been nice to have a tramley. I never had a tramley because of 2020 COVID, but maybe that. But I wouldn't change much. A gear, I had honed my gear in ahead of time, and it worked out for the most part pretty well. Um, so not a lot I would change for this year. Actually, reruns on here, so I'm hoping, Dan, to come out your way. I don't know when, maybe late spring, middle spring, maybe
Okay.
April, May, maybe. But looking at possibly coming out and doing that Elk River Trail, I would love to hook up with Rerun and do that. But
Yeah.
my wife and I are planning a trip out to some national parks, maybe out in Colorado, just to on a getaway. And if we could piggyback off of this trip, that would be great.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe maybe some
Let's see
trips up to Michigan.
the Elk River Trail. The northern terminus of it is 4 miles from my house.
Oh my word!
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's right here.
yeah.
I go out. In fact, yesterday I just went out to the Elk. It's called Elk City State Park, but that's where the trail is, and went out there yesterday just to again. It's just wonderful to be out there. So yeah,
So,
so
and
awesome
again,
stuff.
maybe a couple hikes and maybe get up to Michigan. We'll see. You guys did Picture
Yep,
Rock last year, so
yep,
maybe I'll get up there for that. Or
that would be good.
you
Yeah,
really intrigued me with the Isle Royal out there, and that looks like a special place. So that's a possibility.
yeah. Isle Royal is one of my out of state trails that I plan on doing this year. Isle Royal, I want to do um, um, Pictured Rocks. We're planning that, and then maybe one out west. I would sure like to get out to Wyoming. I'd sure like to get with Max and just do a short trail there. I think that would be a blast to meet him. And then and then my big thing this year is the Cherokee Trail. I'm planning on really digging into that and looking at the history behind the Cherokee Trail. But then, of course, Elk River is it's right there. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah,
See a couple questions from it from Taking a Walk Adventures about gear. What wouldn't I change? I don't think I would change my hiking poles. I really love my Black Diamond hiking poles. A lot of people go with lighter poles. These were aluminum, but they really held up well.
yeah.
I wasn't a hiking pole hiker before I started training for the AT, and I switched
Oh
over.
wow.
Really love the poles. They bent in the rocks a little bit, and the tips fell off, and I was able to get new tips. Just the little metal at the end, and I replaced those. They would fall off eventually. That whole tip piece was almost nothing left of it. When I finished the trail, I replaced those. I was able to bend the pole back out, and they're still going. I really like the poles. I'm actually ready for Byron though. I thought somebody might ask what you like. That's gear. I'm not doing a sales pitch, but this is a friction defense. It's a
Yep.
body glide.
Yep. Yep.
That stuff saved. I don't use it on my body. You can if you get chafing, but I use that stuff, a lot of it, on my feet. And miracle. Praise the
I,
Lord.
I
I didn't get one blister on my feet for 2,000 miles. That
yep.
stuff.
That's that's exactly the same stuff I use and the same story. I
Yeah,
put it on my feet. I would put it on my feet at night when I go to bed, and then I'd put it on my feet again in the morning. I'd let it soak in a little bit. Put my socks on. That darn tough socks, man. I was
same here.
and like you, no
I had
blisters.
darn toughs. I rotated. I sometimes I wore Injinjis with the darn toughs. Sometimes I just wore the Injinjis. Sometimes I wore the darn toughs only. But always put that body glide stuff, friction defense on my feet, and I put a lot of it on. And I also listened. When my feet would heat up, I would stop, sit down
Yep.
for 5 minutes, cool them off, and then I'm on my way.
Well, that's the challenge that I have is that with diabetes, I don't feel my feet heating up.
Yeah, that's got to be tough.
So and I start. I really don't feel the trail from the balls of my feet to my toes. I don't feel the trail at all. So I sort of walk back on my heels so that I can. And by doing that, the challenge is my toes will dip. And when they do, I'll hit a rock or hit a root and I fall. And that's I just get used to it. So yeah. Oh, oh, Shirley's asking what kept us from getting blisters. You want to show her your secret magic there again, Ken?
Yeah, this is a called Gold Bond. Let me get it up here. Gold Bond
There you go.
friction defense.
Yep.
It's a body glide. You can buy the body glide. This you can get in like Walmart type store, and it's a lot less expensive,
Yep.
and it works great.
Yeah, it does. It's awesome stuff to just put something on there so that the friction doesn't build up. And but yeah,
I
yeah.
just want to say hi
For
to
me to
Bika. Hi,
yeah
Bika.
for me to compensate, what I do is when I stop, I typically take my shoes off and look at my feet. So if I see them, I can tell, but I don't feel it. Um, an advantage of that is my feet don't get cold that I notice. so I, so that doesn't bother me either.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, I want to share with you a little snippet, about 5 minutes maybe, of next week or this Saturday's video. Um, yes, it is good for chaffing as well. Very good. I mean, it's good all around stuff. And I'm gonna uh, share this, about 5 minutes of it, and then after that, come back. I want to announce our winner for this last week's contest of who contributed to make your hike a success. That's loosely the way the question is and the contest is for this week, and then we'll announce the contest for next week as well. So, all right. Well, let me share this video and we can discuss it a little bit. We're going to go over here on the side, and I'm going to turn this banner off. If anybody wants to join me, send me an email. If you tell me on the comments, I may see it and I may not. And if I miss it, I apologize. But send me an email. I love to hear from you. I'd love to have you on the show. All right, Ken. Here's a little snippet from this Saturday's video. About 4 more miles for the day. Here's the Thomas Ellis White Campground. Down through here is where we were intended to stay last night. Good morning. When my mouth's cold, it doesn't work right. The beginning of the second full day on the trail, and we just left Wolf City. So next stop will be Lagonia and then Pecan Gap. Another one of these fine ridges. Check this out. What a difference a day makes. It's about mid-40s right now, and the wind's blowing out of the north. Front moved in last night, so today is not going to be a repeat of yesterday. I don't think we're going to have to worry about being hot. But I'll tell you a little bit about what makes these trails amazing. Yeah, there's views. We saw the deer yesterday. Beautiful night sky, not full ass. But it's the people. Yesterday we got into Wolf City around 5. When we got there, the truck pulls up, asks if we needed anything. We said we were looking for the restaurant, and so he picks us up and takes us to the Mexican restaurant in town. Great food, but after a full day of hiking, I really didn't have an appetite, so didn't eat a whole lot. But it really was good. And then we went to the Dollar General to buy water. While I was in the store, lady talks to Rick, says that if we'd like, we could spend the night, and they had a shed out back. It was supposed to be a storm rolling in. We did get the wind and the temperature dropped, but the rain didn't come. We didn't know that at the time. And we were going to go to the campground back here. But she offered us the use of their shed. Huge blessing. Jana and Clyde, great people. And they have son and daughter, their spouses all live together. And so we spent the night there in the shed. She offered to make us dinner. She offered to make us breakfast. Very
hospitable, and super nice. So, Jana, Clyde, thank you and your family. You just probably don't know how much of a blessing that was. You know, we had it rained. To pack up a wet tent and store it and carry it, it's just not fun. So you took that away from us and gave us a place that we could stay dry and out of the weather. And then your offers were amazing. So, all right. Well, that's how we got on the trail today.
And that's sort of the beginning of next week or next Saturday's YouTube video. We go back through, this is the second half of that trail. I finished it up, and we went to Paris, Texas. And yes, Texas has a Paris, just like France, even an Eiffel Tower. And you got to see it because only Texas could do this. So it's wonderful. I love Texas. But yeah, like we've been talking about, the people just make the trail as well as everything else. So, Ken, I was going to read your input from last week's contest to just sort of share, because I knew that you were going to be talking about Iceman, and I just knew that. So when you shared that, I was going to read it for everyone, but you've told the story much better. And so just for the announcement, Ken, you're the winner of last week's contest. So you will be getting in the mail a letter from me. Exciting stuff. Exciting stuff. A letter from me, my sticker, and you go on the Hall of Winners that is in the description of my channel. And if you go to the description, you will see down at the bottom there's the Hall of Winners, and you are posted on there for all the world to see, or at least all 6 people that subscribe to my channel. So yeah, awesome. There you are. Congratulations. This coming week, what I would like for us to look at, and I'll get the comments and I'll send them to you, and for your selection, you're the judge. So you have to get out your black robe and get your hammer out. What is a favorite trail that you've walked? It doesn't have to be even a physical trail. It doesn't have to be a hiking trail. But is there something in life that we've walked that is a favorite of mine? So whatever you have, you guys send it, and we will gather those together. I'll send them to Ken, and then from there, we will announce a winner next week. So congratulations again.
Thanks, Dan.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. I'm enjoying doing this. Just to hear your stories. One of my favorite times in hiking was when you and I were on the Foothills Trail, and we stopped at what I called Yellowstone. Yogi the Bear, or not Yogi the Bear. Wilma and Fred Flintstones. There, that site where they had the big stone fire pit, and they had made stone seats all the way around it. They even had stone end tables beside there. But you and I sat there and talked and visited, and that was a nice evening.
That was. And the stone setup was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was. That's a great trail. That is still my favorite trail east of the Mississippi, even including the Appalachian Trail. I think the Appalachians, when I fell in Pennsylvania and kissed that rock, I think that sort of spoiled me from the AT.
Was that on the AT when you got that bruiser?
Yeah.
I hate seeing that video. I've seen it a couple times, Dan, and it scares me every time.
I wasn't going to show it. I was going to not put that in the video. And Ice Bear, who's another friend of mine, she's part of our family, and Ice Bear, another great channel, great person. She said, "No, you got to include it. People like to see that stuff." So I did, and I tell you, that's one of the most seen videos of my whole channel, and I've got about 230 videos, and people still go back to that crazy video and send it.
That little spot on that video, if you watch it, you grimace every time.
Oh, well, I do. I grimaced when I did it. Rick was so concerned. He said, "We need to stop. We just got to stop." Because what happened is I stepped up, there was a granite slab, and I stepped up on it, and my foot slipped, and I fell forward, and there was this jagged boulder, and I kissed it. I hit it right in the face, and then I fell on the ground, and all of the rocks that are on the ground are these spikes, and so they stuck through my arms and my chest, and Rick said, "We got to stop." I said, "No, we're not stopping," because we were on what's called the knife's edge there in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And so, "No, we're not stopping. We got to go past this thing." And he said, "Well, what if you have a concussion?" I said, that's a good point. I said, "Let's sit here for 15 minutes. And if I'm okay, then we'll keep on going." So we did. And I was okay. So we kept on going. And then the next day, both eyes were almost swelled shut. And I had cuts, and yeah, it was bad. So
it happens so fast you can't stop it.
Yeah.
Somebody was watching over me in the White Mountains, Dan. I leaned out a little too far with my pack on, and the pack pulled me over, probably an 8-10 foot fall from rocks into rocks. I thought the hike was over, but I landed square on my back. Pad absorbed everything. When my head bounced back, it hit the pack. And I lied there for a minute, checking my toes, checking my hands. Everything's moving. And I didn't have a scratch on me.
Oh, man.
Somebody watched over me on that one.
Yeah. Michael's saying he's got to see that one. If you look at I guess it's the Pennsylvania section of my AT hike, you'll see the thumbnail, and I'm looks like I was in a fight. So that'll be the one. But yeah, and Stephen, he remembered watching it. So, well, Ken, I have had a blast, and it's time for us to go for now. But I do look forward. Please, if you get out this way, let me know. If the end of April, my brothers and I are gathering together for a brothers reunion. We do this once a year. I'm the youngest of 6 boys, no sisters, and we have one brother that died about 4 years ago, and so after that, we decided we just have to get together. So we've been doing that every year, and we're going to go. I think it's like the 26th, about 4 days in there around the 26th of April. I won't be here then, but I would be excited to go whenever else you can.
Okay.
Let's see.
Once again, Dan, thanks for your open invitation last year. That really opened a great opportunity. And as you say, you enjoy the Foothills Trail east of the Mississippi. It's a beautiful trail. Really enjoyed that and appreciate your company.
Well, thank you. I still want to go back. And just document the waterfalls. I just want a video of all the waterfalls. So that's now that we know about it. And
actually, we caught the bottom of one of the nicest waterfalls. We didn't take the side trail up to the top, and I've seen pictures of that since, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. I'm just watching a guy that's out there, was out there a couple of weeks ago, and he did it. And yeah, that was just, I thought, kicking myself that we didn't go up there. But that was probably my fault. I was probably saying, man, I'm not going up there. You can go. I'm not. All right. And yes, Pennsylvania is sometimes known as Rocksylvania, but I tell you, it's got some of the most beautiful sights and views and vistas to see as well. Every place along the AT is just beautiful. All right. Well, it is 6 o'clock. It's here, 7 o'clock your time. If you haven't ate dinner, I bet you're wanting to. So, Ken and everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, stay on the path. God bless you. Bye-bye.